Welcome back. This is episode 235 of the Veterinary Business video show. In this episode we'll remind ourselves that there are just 3 things that only veterinarians can do legally, and we'll learn how to deliver a spectacular service for our clients. We'll hear some sound advice about minimizing the impact of on-holds. We'll learn why we should talk to ourselves more often, and I'll offer you my quick business tip for this episode. I'm John Sheridan, and this is the video show from Veterinary Business. In the previous episode of the video show, we featured a clip about the value of our veterinary nurses and techs. Today I've included a short video, this time from Robin Dowding, a distinguished veterinarian in Colorado, who reminds us that there are just 3 things that only veterinarians can do legally. All the rest of veterinary health care can and should, she says, be provided by vet techs and nurses.
Veterinary nurses are such an important part of the veterinary healthcare team. In fact, I would argue a critical part of the veterinary healthcare team. There are only 3 things that only veterinarians can do legally. 1 is make a diagnosis. 2 is perform surgery. And 3 is prescribe medication. Only those 3 things. All the rest of veterinary healthcare can and should be performed by veterinary nurses. I think the mistake that veterinarians make is thinking that they have to do everything themselves and can't or shouldn't or won't delegate to qualified, credentialed veterinary nurses. We, as veterinarians, lose sight of the fact that the veterinary nurse is a sister profession to the veterinary profession. Veterinarians and veterinary nurses can and should work intimately together for the better health of our patients. And really, when I, as a veterinarian, do rely on and delegate to my veterinary nurses, I'm really enhancing my abilities as a veterinarian by amplifying what I'm able to do and for how many patients I'm able to do those things. So, doctors, start using your nurses the way they need and deserve to be used, and that's for the betterment of the patient.
Now let's see who's on the video show soapbox. The vet on the soapbox today is Joel Parker of Veterinary Practice Solutions. Joel is a practicing vet and practice business consultant, and in this clip he shows us how to deliver a service so spectacular that it will move people emotionally to talk about your practice, recommend your services to their friends and acquaintances, and generate positive reviews about your practice team.
This week we're talking about delivering a service that's exchange in abundance. And what I mean by that is when you're delivering your interactions with people and pets in your practice, that you're delivering something that is above and beyond what's expected. And I know we've talked about this in other Whiteboard Wednesdays, but I wanted to just bring this to light, or let's say in a new unit of time, bring it to light and have another look at it. Great companies don't just deliver great service. They deliver something that is unexpected. They don't necessarily deliver 2 for 1 or something for free. You know, we can all do that. That's easy enough to do. That's a marketing exercise. But the more difficult thing to do is to deliver a performance that moves people emotionally, and they walk out of your practice going, I love those guys. My pet loves those guys. I'm going to go and recommend them to my neighbors. I'm going to make sure my neighbor comes here. I'm going to go and give a positive review. The important thing that I think comes out of exchange in abundance, meaning people give you money and in exchange they get the service, is that it triggers a spontaneous emotional referral or, positive review, something like that. So there's a whole bunch of things that we can do with this. The thing to realize again, guys, is that don't get caught up into 2 for 1 specials or discounting dentals and so forth and so forth. You're giving money away. It's not what really puts together an exchange in abundance performance. What puts together an exchange in abundance performance are surprises. Do something surprising. Learn something about a client that they didn't know you knew. Comment on their grandson, their kids, something like that. Be gracious. Okay, give people your time, grant them importance, and I know that's super hard to do. Guys, I was 17 years in practice, and there were times before I got trained that I just wanted to leave the practice and take a year off, okay? But what you'll learn is that as you train with us, your time will go up, your patience will go up, and you'll have time to really spend time with people and grant them importance and be gracious. And importantly here, guys, be exceptional, okay? Don't just do something as though it was the same thing every day. Every time you spay a cat, try and make it an exceptional cat spay. Be in present time, be exceptional, be gracious, be surprising.
Now for a tip from the top in the business world of veterinary practice. What's your experience in trying to contact your bank, government or local authority departments, major telephone companies, internet, utilities and other service providers by telephone? Almost impossible, I suspect. Invariably, you're put on hold or offered a range of other high-tech options when all you really want to do is to talk to another human being about the issue you're calling them for. In a recent episode of the video show, I referred to a study reported by the Harvard Business Review, which concluded that the less effort required by customers to engage with a business, the more loyal they would become. That's why it's so important not to follow the appalling example of the businesses I mentioned, and to ensure as far as possible that you provide the necessary practice resources to reduce on-holds to a minimum. Here's a clip in which Wendy Myers offers some sound advice about minimizing the impact of on-holds.
Did you know 70% of calls to businesses get put on hold? Follow 5 rules before you put any caller on hold. Rule 1. Explain why the caller needs to hold. A caller cannot see you and simply assumes that his is the only incoming call you have to answer. Many veterinary receptionists are literally juggling multiple phone lines and visiting clients at the same time. Rule 2. Ask permission. I hate please hold followed by the click, and you do too. This abrupt greeting will only create irate callers. Rule 3. Wait for the answer. If my cat is having trouble breathing, I cannot hold. Quickly connect me to a veterinarian or technician who can provide some instructions before I get to your hospital. Rule 4. Promise to promptly return. No one wants to be forgotten on hold. Rule 5. Express thanks. Reintroduce yourself and show appreciation for the caller's patience. Let's say that you need to initially place an incoming call on hold. So put all 5 rules together and say, "Welcome to our veterinary hospital. This is Wendy. I'm finishing helping another caller and I will help you next. Is your pet having a medical emergency or are you able to hold?" The word finishing sets expectations that the caller's hold time will be brief. And use the phrase medical emergency, not just emergency, because some high-maintenance callers may assume that scheduling an exam or refilling a prescription is an emergency.
Now for my quick business tip for this episode. There are occasions when I tend to chunter or mumble to myself if I'm engaged in some arduous or demanding task. My wife says it's a sign of old age, but I've just come across this clip from Dan Pink, who suggests that maybe I should talk to myself much more often.
Do you ever talk to yourself? Me too. But that doesn't mean we're weird. It means we're human. There's a rich body of research on what social scientists call self-talk. And it turns out that talking to ourselves can be pretty helpful. But how we do it can make a world of difference. Let me give you an example. Suppose that I am out for a long run and I'm feeling a little tired. I can say to myself, I can do it, right? Motivational self-talk. Or if I'm feeling a little wobbly, I can say to myself, I need to keep my back straight. I need to lift my knees a little higher. Instructional self-talk. But there's some interesting research led by Ethan Cross at the University of Michigan showing that I can get a little bit more oomph behind that if I shift from first person to second person or even third person. So I can instead say, you can do this, not I can do this. Or you need to lift your knees a little higher and keep your back a little straighter. Even better, I could say, Dan needs to lift his legs a little higher, keep his back a little straighter. The mechanism at work here is what social scientists call distancing. We are better at solving our own problems when we have a little bit of remove from them, when we can see them at a distance, when we treat our own problems in much the same way we would treat someone else's problem, rather than get so absorbed in it. And switching pronouns can be a way to acquire that self-distancing. So, the next time you're talking to yourself, try this. Shift from first person to second person, or even third person.
So what's my quick business tip? Well, it's this. If, like me, you find it helps to talk to yourself from time to time, try, as Dan suggests, to shift from first to a second or even a third person approach. If, on the other hand, you never talk to yourself, try it out. Sometimes it can really work. Well, that's about it for now. I'm John Sheridan, and this has been another video show from Veterinary Business. See you next time.